Welcome to Up Close Far Out, a YouTube video presentation of broadcast industry trade publication Talkers Magazine. I'm your host, Michael Harrison. Our guest this installment is medical doctor Asa Andrew, often referred to as America's health coach. He's a syndicated radio and television talk show host specializing in the latest leading-edge health and medical information. Beyond that, he's a dynamic communicator, motivational philosopher, author, columnist, podcaster, and colorful figure in the world of professional wrestling, where he serves as medical director and ringside physician for the TNA. Talkers Magazine ranks him at number 31 on its prestigious annual Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Dr. Asa Andrew, it's always great to catch up with you. And as you know, and I'm a busy guy, I'm always catching up with you because you're like the speed of light. Time stops. So if something goes on, you're the busiest guy and most complex, diverse individual I know. You're America's health coach. You're a medical doctor. You do a radio show that's syndicated around the country. You got all kinds of television projects going on. You've worked with the NFL. And on top of everything, you've got this very offbeat career going now for a number of years in a field that both you and I enjoy talking about, and that is professional wrestling. Am I within the ballpark of what your life is like?
You're in the ballpark for sure. But listen, let me tell you something. You've got to give yourself credit for this. I know that I seem busy, but let me tell you something. You've built something that's absolutely been game-changing for our industry. So I just got to throw that to you. All of us put the work in. I'm just in that season right now, still putting that work in to get something built like you've built. I just want to give that to you because it's.
I appreciate that very much. I do want to mention to everybody listening that we both have kind of philosophies that surround what we do. Much of what you do is motivational, even though that's not what you set out to do. It's motivational. And in terms of me building something, obviously I'm no spring chicken. I've been around the block and I've traveled around the sun a number of times. I do believe that one never has completely built their career, their dream, their anything. And people that get frustrated that they feel they're on a treadmill and that they can't get that last, bite of the apple or whatever it is they're looking for, they're missing the point because you never finish the job.
That's so great. That's really good word. I get goosebumps. That's awesome. No. It's really, really good. Cause it is, you look at the hamster on the wheel and we see that early on, but it's the whole journey and destination, right? It is about the journey and you're always on the journey with the gifts and talents and abilities that you've been given to be able to utilize those and become the best version of you. And it's something that we should all be striving for every single day in whatever those categories are that we've been given. You and I are on the same page in a lot of ways, for sure.
Yeah, when you come to the conventions, the talk radio gatherings, and you're one of the favorite people there, you show this big video and you show you lifting tires and doing all kinds of physical things and sweating and I have spoken to a number of people who found your motivational skills to be inspiring to them. But let's jump right into, I want to cover a couple of areas and obviously they're going to be brief because you and I could do long conversations about each part of your career. I definitely want to cover your professional wrestling stuff, but I want to play the tease game and say, we're going to get to because I think a lot of people are going to be tuning into this to hear your story because it is the stuff movies are made of. And it's a great story. And so many people that you would never expect to be interested are fascinated, interested, nostalgic, excited by that unusual sports/art form known as professional wrestling. So we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But your work as a doctor, as a medical doctor, as evidenced in your radio shows and the television things that you do, is very leading edge. You are a traditional medical doctor, but you're not. How would you describe your philosophy and your work in the medical field?
I think there's two ways of looking at it. When I came into medicine, I was always into fitness, health, and nutrition. So that was something that really intrigued me. And when I came in, I realized that medicine was very, very reactive. And in that sense, you get high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, whatever it is, and we have option A, B, and C to medically treat it, to use whatever medications, maybe a little lifestyle here and there, but it really that was not a big part of our standard curriculum and the way we do things. And I just came in and I thought there has to be a better way, which is why I started studying alternative medicine and other forms of alternative healthcare along the way, because I thought, okay, wait a minute. I had a basic concept. I'm a very common sense kind of guy. Like, I can get into the weeds with some of the medical things, but I really get down to the basics. And I learned this from Dave Ramsey, early on, even when I started my radio show, is that, common sense really is the key, whether it's money, finances, and especially with health. And I figured out, okay, many of these conditions that we face today are diet and lifestyle related. So I thought, well, if we can lifestyle our way, which most of us do, we lifestyle our way into a health challenge, whatever it might be, then we have to be able to lifestyle our way out. And that premise right there really hit me early on. And so I realized that my passion was for proactive medicine, which is where you see everything going right now, not 20 years ago when I started, but instead of reactive medicine. I just knew I didn't want to react to people getting sick and put Band-Aids over everything. No disrespect to our medical field at all. We do great emergency medicine and all of that's great. But I wanted to get to someone to help them unravel where they are, to get to a better version of themselves so that their health span, which is the quality of our life, could be as impactful as someone's lifespan. The quality mattered to me. And that's really where I changed the game and wanted to start having that conversation.
Proactive medicine is one of the keys to dealing with very serious issue attached to the healthcare issue in talk media, and that's affordability. That's the cost. And a lot of the disorganization that seems to be happening as we go from the family doctor to the corporate doctor, which is something that I see happening, and I'm sure that must ring a bell with you being in the profession. Am I correct in jumping to the conclusion that the finances of the new healthcare industry and the lifestyle of it, how it relates to people, are indeed they do indeed form a crisis?
They do. And I think we're in the middle of that right now. And again, politically, with things going on in our government right now, RFK, and a lot of things that he and Dr. Oz are working on in different various areas, I think we're at a very pivotal time, because we've got this point where we realize that the reactive medicine is important, but there's so many people, the boomers, the Gen Xers, that are going to be living a lot longer. So what does that mean? And how do we pay for it? And it can't be this astronomical care out of pocket for everybody that wants to do more of a lifestyle-based medicine. It has to be something that insurance is going to cover. Otherwise, Medicare, you get into that age bracket, but you're wanting to do all these natural things, and everybody says, oh, that's not covered. That's not covered. And it becomes a real expense out of pocket. The thing that Dr. Oz is figuring out, he's mentioned this a lot of times, is that if we get into proactive medicine and start covering that and celebrate that, and by celebrating it, I mean, they cover it. It's not like we push it to the side, we cover it. You're going to see the cost, American healthcare cost, go down dramatically. Now, there's conversations for that too. Do they really want it to, right? I mean, there's a lot of different, we don't know all the variables. One thing we do know, though, is that if you focus on lifestyle-based medicine, if we go in and give people better choices, if we help them get to a better place in where they are, where they're eating, their lifestyle, if we help them manage their medications, if not get off medications by the things that they're doing every single day, if we get on that bandwagon and understand that agenda, then we really can lower healthcare costs in America. Insurance can start covering in a much better way. And we're going to give a better health span and lifespan to all of our, I don't even like to call them seniors, because I think that whole system is even changing. Like, you're going to live a lot longer. I'm going to live a lot longer because of the science and what we know now. We all are going to have a longer lifespan as time goes on. And so we have to figure out a way to pay for that and to be good stewards of that, really.
How concerned are you about the bigness of big pharma and big insurance? Big pharma and big insurance seem to have the average person, in a stranglehold, including doctors. They complain to me, they know that I'm a listener, and and they blow off a lot of steam. It seems that a lot of people, and even those names you mentioned, Oz and Kennedy, are not without controversy. And I'm not going to get into all that, because that's a whole other tangent. But I just want the listeners and the viewers to know, I know, and I have my own views on that. But this
Right.
is your forum, and I want to hear what you have to say. So, what about the dangers or the challenges facing, depending how you want to approach it, big pharma and big insurance?
I think there's a couple way to look at that. I mean, big pharma is big pharma. Big insurance is big insurance. They're here to stay. So I think it's more about working with the system, working around what we have, because they're big for a reason, right? Okay, there's a lot of money involved. There's a lot of influence involved. And to go in and start to shift and move that around will take some time. I think it's going to take time for them to really see the bigger picture of what's happening in our healthcare, how things are shifting. So what I have seen, and I think this is another model that has come on, we're utilizing this in our clinical system where the insurance part will not work, is concierge medicine. You're seeing a new movement with membership models for primary care. And that really, primary care is my wheelhouse. It's because I like being the head coach for someone. I don't need to be the specialist, but I want to be the head coach. If you're dealing with multiple conditions, we want to come in and show you, okay, you're dealing with all of this. Here's what you can do, A, B, C, and D. But in the concierge model, it's a membership model. So people that need to come out of pocket, it's not thousands of dollars. It may only be $100 a month or $75 a month. And then they have access to that doctor, the wisdom in that clinic, in that practice. It is an alternative now to big pharma, big insurance, because yes, people are on a lot of medications, but many people are on all these medications because they don't know better. If they knew better, they could do better. And that comes down to the doctor teaching, because doctor means teacher. It does not mean the white coat. It does not mean the one who prescribes everything. Doctor means teacher. So at the end of the day, I'm big on that.
My concern about the concierge system is that it will become the next thing. It will become popular. It'll become the remedy to the problem we have now. And then it'll just become the problem because it'll become big. People are always complaining they can't even get to their primary doctor anymore. Now they're dealing with something called a PA, a physician's assistant, some of whom know more than doctors, others of whom are really, and I don't want to use the word just, but just nurses.
Yeah.
What's your thought about that problem or potential problem?
It is a problem, and it's a challenge, really, that we just have to look at. I think we call them mid-level. So a PA, nurse practitioner, there are a lot of great ones. And when you're looking at family medicine, right? When you're looking at internal medicine, these areas where we're looking at basic systems and how the body's working, I think a lot of them are trained very well. I think you're right. There are some that even perform better than a standard MD in that same setting. So I've got a lot of respect for those levels of care. And I think they're much needed because, again, you are right. And in the area that I live in, it's one of the reasons that we opened up another clinic here is simply because people can't get in to doctors. They're on waiting list. You don't need to wait. If you need to see someone, you need to see someone. And I do think the membership model is going to stay, if it's done right, can stay at a level that will give people the access that they're looking for. Because a lot of people with Medicare now, what they're doing is, even though their office visit is covered, they're joining in these concierge membership models because they can get quick access to the doctor of their choice, and it's not expensive. Some doctors can make it very pricey, but a lot of them are jumping in at a very low level so that everyone can afford it. And there really are a lot of physicians I'm finding out there that are capping it, let's say at 500 patients or something along those lines, so that everybody can have that 45 minutes with a doctor or the hour, the time to really get that one-on-one. And it is a good workable system, a workaround system for what we have right now. Because big pharma is big. Big insurance is big. And it's going to take a lot to create a shift in that. So creating another space over here, I think, has been a really good option.
Are you optimistic?
I am, very much so.
That's
you know me. I'm optimistic on just about everything, but I also see the downside and I see what's there. So for me, this is the way I am with everything in life, really. And it's definitely the way I'm in healthcare. If somebody has 3 different conditions, right? You don't just look at the 3 conditions. You look at the things that they do have working well in their body, the habits that they have. So with big insurance and with big pharma, you look at the good things, right? You've got to see all the bad, but you can look at the good things, extract those good things, work with what they've got, create something over here and create a pivot to make that work. And as an entrepreneur, the way I think, and there's a lot that can still be done.
As an entrepreneur and as the publisher of the leading trade magazine in the talk media business, and the leading medium in talk media still is talk radio, and you're on the leading edge of talk radio syndication. I believe that radio is missing the boat by not having more health-related shows mixed in with the politics. Politics is very popular today, but it's not the only option, and it's not the only thing that people are concerned about. You've been building this network. You've been building affiliate relations, and really have a growing footprint in the general talk radio and talk media field. Are you finding that there's a hunger out there, and that when performed properly, this is an excellent place to go for people with expertise in medicine who also enjoy radio and television?
100%. I think this is one of the top type content show you can put on any radio station, any TV station in the world, because at the end of the day, our health is our greatest wealth. People are concerned about money. People are concerned about politics, but I'll tell you this, take away someone's health, you take away everything. All these other things kind of go out the window. So I found that health has really been that topic, which is why this has been so successful over the years, because it's near and dear to everyone's heart. You can yell about politics all day long. You can talk about money, which Dave has done. Ramsey has done a great job of creating that space, because it's important for all of us to talk about. When it comes down to health, at the end of the day, if it's not your own health, it's your kids. If it's not your kids, it's your parents. Someone that you know is dealing with a health challenge, a health issue, something that they're going through. And that kind of information is invaluable, really, to be able to help someone go to that next level, get healthy, live better. So I found that even on stations, when they add it, like we just had a call the other day out in Colorado Springs, and they added us to their network, and they've been wanting to bring us on. They had to create space. They finally got that. They called us. And within, I think she told me within a week of us signing the contract, getting on the station, they already had 2 sponsors ready to go in the can, and more coming along the way. They're doing voiceovers. They said their community is just bustling with people that wanting this health information, especially with where we are in the climate politically. Health is a big topic. Now everybody's talking about it. It's part of the political conversation more than it's ever been.
It all connects to politics. One of my complaints about talk media's handling of politics is they don't connect it to day-to-day emotions, day-to-day challenges. And the fact that Americans are at this time in pain, they appeal to anger, and they appeal to, fear, things of that nature, but they don't necessarily address pain. And I am of the, they'll talk about radio is important because we might have a hurricane and the electricity will go out, and, you turn to radio. But radio can't be a hurricane candle. It has to also address other kinds of crises and disasters. And crises and disasters are going on in people's lives all the time. And this is not just medicine. This goes into the field of psychology. This goes into other aspects of well-being. Mm-hmm. So now the big pivot and the rest of the conversation is, so how is a guy like you, I'm not going to tell you secrets, but I happen to know that you're past the half-century mark. What motivates a guy like you who's so concerned about health and well-being to go into the ring, the wrestling ring, the squared circle? I love that circle. The squared circle, and submit to being thrown from the top rope and landing on your back and doing these suplexes and all of this stuff. I know you love wrestling, and you and I are both enthusiasts of the genre. I don't want to say fans.
For sure.
We're
enthusiasts. That's good.
Enthusiasts. What's going on
in wrestling? They call it, we're not marks. That's what they call them in wrestling, but we are enthusiasts for sure.
well, so, you can learn an awful lot about Marx and pop culture and good guys and bad guys and heels and baby faces, and by following, there's a lot of lessons in the wrestling world about
they correlate with life. And Dusty Rhodes, who taught me, he said so we know the title work. You and I talk about that all the time. Life is a work, wrestling is a work, this is a work. But Dusty Rhodes, who trained me in wrestling, he said to me, he said, "Kid, let me tell you something. Everything in life is a work." And so, wrestling parallels with movies and culture and pop culture and politics. It really is a great storyline of how things operate. And that's why it's so fascinating. The athletics, the entertainment, the theater, all of that together just has made it so fascinating to me. I want to tell you this as we jump into the wrestling thing. Can you believe, here we are, we're recording this February 2026, and I got a phone call in May of 2006 after I met with Dave Ramsey. I got to say this, and I got a phone call from WWTN, John Mounts, program director there, and Leslie Pardue, and they said, hey, we got a call from Dave's team, and we're going to put you on the air 11 p.m. on Sunday night, Memorial Day weekend. That was when the Dr. Asa show began, 1 hour, Sunday night, 11 p.m., because they thought, hey, the least listened to time slot in all of talk radio. We're doing it as a favor for Dave. Even if this guy's horrible, he can't mess it up. It's 11 o'clock on Sunday night. So they put me on. The red lights went on at 11 p.m. I gave the worst intro ever. I tried to copy Dave. It was like 3 minutes long. And I gave this intro. And I'll never forget, all 6 lines lit up on the phone. And I had no idea what to do. I didn't know if I was supposed to hit it, if the person was supposed to hit it. I didn't know what to do, right? I thought, I'll got to sit here and monologue, have all these notes. And I'm telling you, it was one call after another, Michael. It was diabetes, heart disease, weight loss. My grandmother's sick. What do I do? Can you pray for me? It was nonstop. 1 hour. All I did was answer calls. And at the next day, they called me and they said, Dr. Asa, I don't know what you did, but our voicemail box was full this morning. We're going to somehow give you these messages. You need to call everybody back because it sounds like they got a lot of health issues going on and they need help.
Wow. Sure.
Listen, that's how this started. And from there, I didn't even have a clinic at the time. I was just in Nashville doing things that my dad was sick. He had just, listen to this. I'll just say this because we're doing this. I left. This is going to tie in great. I was in pro wrestling before I was in radio. And that's what I wanted to do. My dad got sick with terminal cancer. I moved from Atlanta. Never told this story. I moved from Atlanta to Nashville because that's where I grew up. My parents adopted me when I was 1 year old from an orphanage. Mom said, can you come help me? Because your dad's dying. I left everything. I came to Nashville to stay with my mom and be with my dad in the hospital every day. He made it about 9 months. During that time, I ran errands for my mother out in Franklin, Tennessee, and I happened to drive by Dave Ramsey's office. Dave and I had met at a speaking engagement at one point. I stopped in just to say hello to get away from my dad dying. I just needed a break. And I went in, and Dave was there on the air. I'd never seen Dave do a show. I didn't really know a lot about what he did. But meeting Dave, seeing him there, long story short, made the call. My show started. But what's interesting, Michael, this is very interesting. My dad passed on April 30th, 2006. My phone rang the next day with John Mounts and Leslie Pardue saying, we want to start you Memorial Day weekend. When God takes one thing away, he always opens the door for something else and a new blessing. So out of the pain of my father came the career that I didn't know that I was praying for. That happened on that day. And this year, Memorial Day weekend, we will celebrate 20 years on the air.
Wow. It's very important. It's very important in life to remain sensitive to those points of change and connections, to those, I guess I call it connecting the dots, because when you connect the dots the way you just did, you're able to go with the flow, to use a cliche, but a very appropriate one. And because too many people fight the flow, they put up barriers to the flow. And I don't want to get all woo-woo with you, but
no,
there's a degree of that involved in this. So,
and it just took off from there. Let me just finish this point. So when we did the show that night, and I did the show, all the voicemails the next morning, 2 things happened. I called everybody back. I went and found a friend of mine that owned a clinic in Nashville, and I said, can I borrow one of your rooms? It was an x-ray room. That's all he had. So I had a little table in an x-ray room and started seeing patients. Started the radio show 6 months after a weekend show. Again, 1 hour on Sunday night, Clear Channel at the time, iHeart Now, called and said, this thing is We've heard all about it. We want to take you daily. And that's where the syndication and the daily show of 3 hours every single, Monday through Friday, lining up with all the big boys, with Rush at the time, Sean, Dave, that all started within 6 months. And then within a year, we were in a 10,000 square foot facility, 5 doctors, and we were off to the races. Best-selling book, all that started within a year.
Wow, what a connection between the media and medicine.
It really has been.
They should teach they should teach this in college and use your career as a textbook of how the synergy can be created to pull all of this together. I sometimes find it challenging to explain your career in the media to the industry, which is part of my job as a editor of a trade magazine, because you really you have unusual overlappings, and you are an interesting character in that regard. So before we wrap this up, what is your current relationship, aside from all the above that we've talked about? You are a doctor and you are a communicator. You're also not really a wrestler, but you wrestle, and you're involved in the showbiz, the spontaneous improvisational theater that is wrestling. Tell us a little bit about
I'll tie all that together for sure. So here's the bottom line. As I told you, I was in wrestling. It was something I wanted to do. Met Dave Ramsey. My father passed. The radio took off. The clinics, which I didn't really plan on building out, they took off. So it took me down a trajectory for a period of years, say 10, 12, 13 years away from wrestling. I got to a point, and again, in my career, in my messaging, I always was, again, the guy that, in my 30s, right? I was always saying 50 is the new 30. And I'm thinking, it is. Like, I could see that in the future where things were headed. Then I hit 50 and I looked 35 still because of my habits that I had done for so long. And I really thought, okay, 50 is the new 30. Like, I've been preaching this, but now I'm living this. And I'm one of those people, Michael, that when I put my head to something, my mind to something, I'm going to accomplish it no matter what. I live a life of no regrets. I give everything 120%. When I see something that I want, I go after it and I give it my best, right? Wrestling was something that it was more than just a hobby. It was the sport that I really enjoyed, right? Some guys love golf and tennis. And at this point in my stage of my life, it is my country club, is the way I like to say it. Because wrestling is, when you go to the show, it's everyone in the back. It is a brotherhood, a sisterhood. It's a fraternity. It's like a small high school. Everybody's best friends, and then their little cliques and things. But everybody is very, very close. They go out and they face each other as the baby face and the heel, yes, but that's theater, right? When you're in the back, it is a real friendship with all these people that I absolutely genuinely love and call family. So that's why I do it. That is my country club. So just understand that. The performance part of it, when I was starting, before my dad got ill, I was in a role on TNA Wrestling the first year it started on television, and had been given a full slot in TNA, and I withdrew myself to go take care of my dad. So there was a part of me that had not completed something that I really wanted to. And now the clock's ticking. I'm 50. I'm not 30, right? So there's a whole different part of this. So fast forward, and remember, Dusty Rhodes trained me back then. So I meet with Diamond Dallas Page, a really good friend of mine, and we're just hanging out talking about health things, because now he's a health guru and I'm kind of in that space as well. And so we were just kicking around different health things that we could do to work together. And
a legend a legend in wrestling.
Diamond Dallas Page, WWE Hall of Famer, right. One of the greats during the Attitude Era. He was as big as Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Macho Man Randy Savage, Bill Goldberg. He was in that genre, one of the greats, and very, very dear friend of mine. Has done a lot in the fitness industry as well. He's got a thing called DDPY. It's a yoga system, and he's helped people lose weight, come out of wheelchairs. He's got an amazing story. His fitness legacy will outlive his wrestling legacy. Anyway, I say all that to say we were having a conversation, and his wife asked me, he said, "Asa, is there anything that you haven't done? Like, do you have any regrets?" Kind of something I was positioned like that. And I thought about it for a minute, and I thought, there is one thing that I just did not get to finish. That's just kind of when I really think about it, he eats at me a little bit. And I didn't get to wrestle. I didn't get to do the thing. I don't need a huge run for 6 years. I just didn't get to do, the TV match and have that short stint in it, just to put my footprint in it. And so I never forget this. Dallas looked at me and he's got kind of a raspy voice. And he says bro to everybody, which I do too. It's interesting.
Bro.
And he looked at me and he said, "What are you going to do, bro?" And you got to realize something, that when Dallas Page looks at you and says, "What are you going to do, bro?" It says a lot. Dallas, just so you know his story, at the time he started his career, was the oldest person to ever begin a professional wrestling career at age 35. He started wrestling at 35. He was not world champion until he was around 45. So at 40, and that's when guys were 28, 29. Now we've got a lot of 40 somethings wrestling, and that's fairly common because of the aging system. Our bodies are aging much slower now because of the habits that we all have and the science that we have. Everybody's taking better care of themselves. So coming from a guy that says, "What are you going to do, bro?" When he probably asked himself that, "What are you going to do, bro?" at 35, and he went for it. I was sitting there at 50 going, "You know what? You're right." So we made a phone call. I went and retrained. Dusty Rhodes has passed. God rest his soul. A great man. In and outside of the ring. Behind the scenes, just one of the best. In the ring, one of the top best. And I can tell you that he told me, he called Cody, which is his son, who has now been world champion in WWE for the last 2 to 3 years, 2 years, I believe, undisputed champion. And Cody and has a school now in Atlanta. I went and retrained for 3 months, and I got back in the ring. And Michael, I can tell you that when I took bumps, which are the falls, and I did the sequences in the match, it's like a dance. Everything felt like I was 28. Nothing hurt. Everything felt great. People looked at me and they said, "You're like you've been doing it forever." It was like riding a bike. And in that moment, I thought, you know what? Whether I have a match or not, I want to be a part and give and do what I can to this industry as what we can call it a hobby. Because I'm not trying to be, anything in that category. I just love it. And I've been grateful enough to be given, again, TNA has now got into a new thing where we've got a brand new TV deal with AMC. We're now a major player. We're also partnered with WWE now, and we share talent. So TNA has gotten to a level. We're one of the big three. We just signed a TV deal with AMC. Now we're on every Thursday night. It's called Thursday Night Impact. 9 p.m. every Thursday night, we're live. And with that, they asked me to be head of medical for TNA. So now I'm the head physician for TNA. I sit ringside, handle all their injuries during the matches, after the matches. When we're not on the road, I'm the guy. And so I'm able to give back. It's like this experience that I've now had for the last 20 years in clinical practice and really doing the real thing. I'm able to give that talent to our talent in the company, in a business that I love. And through that, they've allowed me to do things. They allow me to get in the ring and do some, what we call spots. They allow me to get into certain confrontations with people and the acting, the theater part of wrestling. It's been a really, really great thing. It's a full circle moment, and I absolutely love it. So when people say, "Are you a wrestler?" You could call it that if you want. I'm just doing something that I love.
Well,
I'm a radio guy.
Every manager that takes bumps during the course of a match, I mean, even the late Miss Elizabeth was a wrestler.
Right.
I mean,
she was.
if you're, I think of Bobby the Brain Heenan and Jimmy Hart and
That's right.
and even all the way back to Freddie Blassie. These guys got bumped around.
They did.
And thrown over the ring, and the Undertaker's guy that died. He was I'm blanking on his name, but he was a scary guy. Oh, my Undertaker!
Yeah.
These guys got bumped. Any chance of you jumping out of the?
You're talking about Percy Pringle, which was Paul Bearer. That
Paul
was the
Bearer,
manager. That was the manager for the Undertaker. Yeah.
Yeah. What a interesting theatrical guy he was.
He was amazing. I actually got to get in the ring with him before he passed. We did an event together and we cut a promo on each other. And I've got video. I should get a copy of that for you. He was an amazing person.
Yeah,
Amazing guy.
definitely. So what about the head of medicine for the TNA jumping out of his chair and getting into the ring and hitting a patient over the head with a chair? I mean,
You know,
I want to see you take it to the highest level of art and
you know what?
theater.
Well, with you and I working together on it, let me pull you in as a manager. You would be great. I'm telling you, you'd be great at
I'd
it.
love to come strutting down there like Bobby Davis with Buddy Rogers. He had a cane. His thing, he
did.
on a cane. Where there's a cane, somebody's getting hit over the head.
Somebody's getting hit over the head. A cane, a chair, a tennis racket with Jim Cornette. Somebody's getting hit with something.
A guitar.
Yeah. Jeff Jarrett with a guitar. Yeah, no doubt. Jeff Jarrett always had the guitar and hit him over there. He got that from Honky Tonk Man.
With the 4x3 or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
You know,
that's great. You know, I think, as you said, tie it all together. If I had to say it, I would say this. When you look at, and you can see this in the career that I've had and still am having, I was really big in cross-promotional content. I saw early on in 2014, we launched the TV show, a daily TV show, and it's syndicated. Now between radio and television, we're in like 300 markets or something along those lines, but it's been a combination. And as I saw the cross-promotional product, even before podcast really came out, and then the podcast piece to it as well, as we started adding to these cross platforms, I started noticing, even when I actually got into wrestling because of the conversation I had with Dallas, but it was something in my heart. I saw after I got in the value of it from a business standpoint, because the fight game is between UFC, WWE, pro wrestling. The fight game in the culture is massive. Matter of fact, WWE has the largest global audience of any other form of entertainment in any capacity in all of entertainment. They have the most eyeballs globally. I didn't know this till the other day, of all of it. So if you look at that, being in the fight game, WWE, TNA, whatever, puts you in a category to draw more audience. And it has into my regular product of talking about health. So it all is synergistic in a way. It's really, I'm Dr. Asa no matter what. That's just who I am. I'm a guy that wants to help people live a better life, to become the better version of themselves. And I do that here. I do that on air. I do it on a TV show. I do it in a podcast. I do it in a docuseries I just filmed on Monday. I do it when I'm sitting in the wrestling ring or outside the wrestling ring. Wherever I am, it's Dr. Asa. I just have multiple areas to be able to carry this message to help people live better. And that really, if I had to tie it together, I'm just a guy that loves to help people and live better. Got a little bit of education, got a few letters after my name. Yeah, I love to jump it in and throw people around in a ring if I get to. But at the end of the day, I'm just a guy, loves to help people. And I've been very blessed and fortunate to meet friends like you. And in our wonderful business of radio, I've really met in wrestling. I've just met some great people along the way that I absolutely love and cherish. And so I'm just grateful, really. And I'm looking forward to the next 50 years because I'm believing 120 is my goal. And so that's what I've got written down on my note and my little note card. And that's what I'm pushing for, and hopefully carry some people along with me, along you, to that number as well. So that's really who I am.
And there you have it, an uninterrupted conversation with Asa Andrew, MD, America's health coach, syndicated radio and television talk show host, author, podcaster, professional wrestling performer, and so much more. You can learn more about Dr. Asa by visiting his website, drasa.com. Up Close, Far Out with Michael Harrison is a production of the Talkers Media channel on YouTube. Please support the program with a like and subscribe to the channel. Our producer is Matthew B. Harrison. Thank you for tuning in. Copyright 2026 Talkers, all rights reserved.